Deep within the deciduous forests of tropical India grows the Indian gooseberry. In the wild, its physical presence is entirely unassuming. Scientifically classified as Emblica officinalis within the Euphorbiaceae family, it forms a medium-sized tree, typically reaching 20 to 25 feet. It thrives on hill slopes at altitudes up to 4,500 feet. Its branchlets are lined with tiny, finely set leaves, displaying a distinct pinnate arrangement. Pinnate is a botanical structure where small, simple leaflets are attached closely along both sides of a central stem. Between February and May, yellowish flowers emerge in dense clusters at the terminal shoots. They release a distinct, crisp scent resembling lemon. The fruit itself matures into a fleshy, globular shape, marked by 6 distinct vertical stripes, running from stem to base. This analysis of the fruit's chemical constituents shows a vitamin C concentration 20 times higher than a standard orange. While vitamin C is typically highly unstable, here it is preserved by a dense internal network of tannins, gallic acid, and delagic acid. This specific combination of high-density vitamin C and tannin stabilization provides the chemical baseline for the plant's clinical profile, but modern phytochemistry alone does not account for its historical status as a broad-spectrum regulator. Classical Ayurvedic texts categorize this fruit at the peak of the medicinal hierarchy, defining it as a primary driver of systemic regulation. This categorization shows Acharya Charaka placing the plant into elite medicinal groups called Mahakashaya, specifically under Vyastapana for anti-aging and Dravyaguna for fever. Acharya Sushruta embedded it as a primary pillar in the foundational Triphala formula, a master compound for systemic cleansing. The plant's clinical weight is embedded in its classical synonyms. It is recorded as Amrit Pala, the fruit of immortality, and Dathri, translating to the nurse. Clinically, texts use Vayasya to denote youth-preserving mechanics and Vrishya to indicate its vitality-boosting actions. This presents a central biological tension. The fruit has an aggressively sour, acidic profile. In standard biology, highly sour substances generate heat and acidity. How can it simultaneously act as a universal, cooling rejuvenator for the body? To resolve this contradiction, we must deconstruct the exact systemic algorithm of its Dravyaguna, the ancient science of pharmacological properties. Ayurvedic pharmacology evaluates substances using a strict 5-variable mathematical model called the Rasa Panchaka. It maps taste, qualities, potency, post-digestive effect, and specific therapeutic action. This text displays the foundational shloka, or classical verse, that dictates Amalaki's specific Rasa Panchaka profile. It begins with the Pancharasa concept. This single plant contains 5 of the 6 possible human tastes. The only missing taste is Lavanavarjita, meaning it is devoid of salt. Among these 5 tastes, the dominant driver of the plant's initial systemic impact is amla pradhan, the sour taste. The standard biological expectation for a sour substance is that it acts as a vayu shamaka, grounding and pacifying the vata dosha, which governs movement and the nervous system. While pacifying vata is expected, a dominant sour taste also mathematically guarantees a sharp, aggressive increase in metabolic heat. This is the exact mechanism that creates the paradox of Amalaki's clinical application. The rigid biological rule states that sour substances inherently heat the body and severely aggravate the pitta dosha, the humor responsible for metabolism. We map how Amalaki interacts with the 3 bodily humors. The sour taste stabilizes the vata column, but the first paradoxical variable is hidden in its post-digestive effect. It transforms into a sweet, cooling byproduct. The second, most critical variable is its shita virya, or cold thermal potency. This combination of a sweet post-digestive effect and cold potency forces an aggressive pitta shamaka action, completely neutralizing the initial metabolic heat. That leaves the final biological humor, kapha, the energy of structure and lubrication. Sweet and cold elements usually increase kapha, meaning the body requires a countermechanism. To solve this, the plant deploys heavy and dry physical qualities. It pairs that dry quality with its final subtaste, kashaya anurasa, which is astringent. Together, they effectively dry out and pacify the kapha humor. This exact, highly improbable configuration of 5 variables mathematically results in a tree doshajet. It is a master agent capable of balancing all 3 systemic humors simultaneously, without ever aggravating any single one. We can translate this theoretical tridoshajit model into concrete therapeutic actions, known as karma, across the human anatomy. Balancing all humors with excess heat, classical texts define its action as a supreme rasayana, a deep cellular rejuvenator. Following ancient scholars, it possesses specific Vyastapana, or anti-aging properties, and Raktapittagna properties, cooling the blood to arrest bleeding disorders. For the nervous system, it functions as Medya for cognition and Chakshusha for ocular health. Circulatorily, it acts as Hridya for cardiac support and Shonita Stapana, stabilizing blood. Finally, it serves as Pramehagna, an anti-diabetic, and Kushtagna for extensive dermatological repair. Every single one of these broad-spectrum classical uses is directly predicted and validated by the theoretical cold potency and sweet post-digestive effect we mapped in the matrix. Within the digestive system itself, AMALAKI operates as a dipanana, kindling digestion, and an anulomana, promoting the proper downward flow of energy. It is uniquely prescribed for hyperacidity because its underlying cold potency rapidly neutralizes gastric heat, effectively bypassing its own initial sour taste. Digestion reveals a dose-dependent paradox. In small quantities, its astringent qualities dominate, causing a stambanana effect, binding the bowels. In large quantities, the mechanics flip. Heavy and sweet qualities take over, acting as a stransana, a mild laxative. This single botanical agent simultaneously arrests diarrhea in microdoses, stimulates bowel clearance in macrodoses, and regulates blood temperature. Ultimately, AMALAKI functions through a completely multidimensional pharmacological matrix, an ancient Dravyaguna algorithm that perfectly aligns with our observed phytochemical networks.